Hello and welcome to video one in this series of video examples for the election statistics project. As I said at the end of that opening video, I will not be using the election data set in my example. I will be using a different one because that would make it too easy. So at this point, I have already copied the County Health 2020 layer. I have opened up the field, or yeah, I've opened up the fields. I've chosen all of the variables that I want, and I have this um, layer right here. Oof, not that one. This layer right here. Go ahead and open the attribute table. So here are all of the variables I picked. I think there's like 14 or so, which is way more than you need, but I went a little crazy. Now, one thing you'll notice is one of the variables I picked is, I guess I didn't tell you what I'm modeling. Start this again. I am going to model the number of reported poor mental health days. So basically, I'm trying to model mental health. So I picked things that in my opinion, seem negative: smoking, obesity, food insecurity, and then things that could play a factor. How many doctors are available? How many mental health providers are available? Things like that. And even just scrolling through my variables, if you look at this one, drug overdoses per 100,000, there's a bunch of nulls. This is going to be a problem later on in my analysis. So I'm actually going to run a tool called data engineering that's going to count all these up for me. So if I right click on my layer and I go to data engineering, I am going to calculate all of these fields. Initially, it just says add and calculate, and there's a button in the middle, and none of them are there. But I went ahead and calculated it again. Oh, it didn't do all of them. Let's try this. I selected all of them, and I'm going to add the statistics and calculate. There we go. Now they're all bold, which means they all calculated. Okay, so looking through my number of nulls, 78 is okay. The rule is less than 100. That 97 is pushing it. But you'll notice here, oh, these are kind of high. But as I continue to scroll through, I have some that are a bit ridiculous. The worst one here is this 1900. So 60% of the data is null. It means that county didn't report their number of homicides per 100,000. And that's just the data set you're working with. You could add another data set and try to find that data if you're really interested. But, this is a modeling activity, so it doesn't have to be perfect. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a little table. Pull that up for you. Not that one. Bear with me. There's my table. Okay. So here is my table. And what I did is I created a column called field name, created a column called field alias, and then I created a column called pass fail and the reason. And if you look at my table, here's the field name, here's the alias. So I copied and pasted. And then you'll notice that this primary care physicians failed, so I marked it failed. Now this is the final. This is after everything's done, so just bear with me. But this failed due to nulls. This failed due to nulls. This entire section failed due to nulls. And that's it. Everything else passed the null test. So I went ahead and wrote fail. I marked nulls, and none of those variables are then going to make it into my analysis. So what's left is average number of physically unhealthy days, adults that smoke, adults that report obesity, adults or people that are food insecure. This one stayed in employment or unemployed. This one stayed in households with high housing costs, overcrowding, lack of kitchen or plumbing facilities. All of those failed due to nulls. And these remained percent driving alone to work, insufficient sleep, non-native English speakers who are not proficient in English, and rural population. So those are the variables that remain for my test. Okay. So again, anything over 100 nulls has to get removed. Next step is I'm going to create a scatter plot matrix. To do that, I'm going to right click on my layer. I'm going to go to create chart and I'm going to go to scatter plot matrix. I'm going to go ahead and grab the scatter plot matrix tab. I'm holding the left click button down and I'm just going to drag it to the center here so it stacks it on top of the map. That makes it as big on the screen as possible. And I need to open up the properties. So that's this button right here. It's going to open up a tab on the side and it asks what numeric fields are we looking at. So I'm going to check the ones that still remain. Poor physical health, poor mental health, I need that. That is my dependent variable. Adult smoking, adult obesity, food insecurity. Those two went away because of nulls. This one stayed, percent unemployment. All three of the housing costs stayed, driving alone to work, frequent mental stress, limited to access food. That one went away. Oh, that one went away. This one's actually a double. I have food insecurity and limited to access to healthy food. I ended up taking that one out, so it's just in my original table. All that one failed. Insufficient sleep passed. Oh, mental distress I have to get rid of too. Disconnected youth failed. All of these residential segregation, homicide, suicide, firearm fatalities, juvenile arrests, just not enough data, and then proficient in English and rural. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I haven't counted the top. 1, skip this one. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I have 12 variables. And I'm going to go ahead and click apply. So first thing I'm going to do is I want my dependent variable, my poor mental health days, to be on top. So I'm going to click these dots to the left, click and drag and put it on the top. And it's going to plop it right there. So this column represents each of these variables compared to poor mental health. Then I'm going to click this show trend line. And then I'm going to change my matrix layout. Lower left, I want scatter plots. Upper right, I want Pearson's R. And you learned about the Pearson's R in the example that, or the pro lesson that you did. So you know about that. And then I'm just going to dock this. There we go. So in looking at my data set, this one's pretty high. I can click on it, and because it's in that first row, that's fine because it's compared to my regular variable. This one's pretty high too. So adult smoking and poor physical activity might have to go. We'll see. Anything that's a 1 needs to go. That's actually what happened when I ran this earlier with my food insecurity and access to healthy food, which is why I've taken it out at this point. But just make note of anything that's really green or really pink, because remember, Pearson R can be positive or negatively correlated. So you are actually going to report this in your project. So you're going to change the title of the plot. Remember, you just go back to properties. I'm going to go to general. That's where the title is. I can also name the axes and things like that. So you can fill that out. And then I would just take a screenshot. You can export it, but it does this like weird file format. So I would just take a screenshot. Finally, the last thing we're going to do in this video is we are going to run our first tool. So I'm going to open geoprocessing. Mine always dock on the right side of my screen, but if you don't have it, it's under analysis, tools. Then I'll open geoprocessing. I'm going to go ahead and close the scatter plot so I can see my map. And I'm going to type in exploratory. We're going to do an exploratory regression. This is part of the Spatial Statistics tool set. I clicked that too fast, so you know you have the right one. This does not produce a map, it just produces a report. And what it's going to do is compare all of your variables and see if there are any that are what we call multicollinear, which means they're too similar to run in a model. So your input feature is going to be that stats variable 20. Your dependent variable, you're always going to have to mark. That is my poor mental health days. And then what I do for my candidate variables is I just click select all, and then I turn off the ones that don't apply. Make sure you turn off your dependent variable. That one will obviously fail. And then turn off any of your variables that have failed so far. I think that's all. Oh, disconnected youth is one. Limited access to healthy foods is one. And frequent mental distress is one. Those are ones I didn't end up using. Okay, you don't have to fill any of these in. Again, it's not a layer. That's why you don't name it. It's just going to produce a report. So go ahead and click run. And then what you want to do with this is you want to click view details. So under messages, we need to scroll down until we find the variable summary. There we go. Summary of variable significance. So all of them are pretty significant. The top three have 100%, so very related. And then even the lowest of my variables has a 70% significance. So they're all going to stay in my first model unless they fail the summary of multicollinearity, and it doesn't look like any of them are. Don't worry about the summary of residual normalcy. Don't worry about any of these choose one of 12 summaries. That's just how the tool runs. We're looking specifically for summary of variable significance and summary of multicollinearity. None of them are reporting as multicollinear at the moment, so this should be good. Once you have that report, you have your variables to start running your models, which we will do in video 2. So go ahead, save your map, and I'll see you in video 2.